Thank you. Now come to the 10-minute rule motion. Gareth Thomas.
I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to provide that any withdrawal agreement between the United Kingdom and the European Union shall not have effect without a vote by the electorate of the United Kingdom and Gibraltar to that effect, to make arrangements for the holding of such a public vote and for connected purposes. Madam Deputy Speaker, there should be a democratic public vote on whether to accept the deal the government achieves to leave the European Union. A people's vote would allow the public, rather than just us here in this House of Commons, to make the final decision about whether to accept the Brexit deal. The 2016 referendum determined that Britain should negotiate the country's departure from the European Union, and I have always respected that decision, voting for Article 50 to be triggered. But the terms on which we leave and Britain's future relationship with the European Union were never clearly defined or put to the public in 2016. New facts have emerged about Brexit, which could never have been known at the time of the referendum. We now know that the promises made about breakfast, like £350 million a week extra for the NHS and getting a deal with the exact same benefits, won't be kept. And who knew that Brexit negotiators would be willing to hand over £40 billion in order to leave the European Union, and for a much worse relationship? With negotiations obviously not going well, and the Cabinet not able to agree amongst itself even on future customs arrangements and what to do about the Northern Ireland border, it is more and more likely that the government will present us with a poor deal. In those circumstances, why should our country, our fellow citizens, have to accept it without having had any chance to influence the hard Brexit the government looks like it is going to deliver? We have gone from the fastest growing economy in the G7 to the slowest. Indeed, according to the Bank of England, Brexit has cost us more than £200 million a week in lost growth. The pound has plummeted, investment is down, inflation is higher, and wages have stagnated. And we haven't even left yet. Even the government agrees that Brexit will damage the economy. Their own leaked impact analysis shows we will be worse off under every possible Brexit deal. On immigration, on fishing, on new trade deals, we were told a series of statements that 2 years on are looking distinctively threadbare. On immigration, how are the government going to secure access to the single market without accepting freedom of movement? Why would the European Union sign off a trade deal that doesn't include the right for EU nationals to come back and forth? There has not been a single sign that EU ministers are willing to shift on this, or tellingly that the government really deep down wants them to. There are various measures the government could bring in now, but strikingly they have chosen not to ensure free movement isn't a free-for-all. It is now clear too that it is ministers and not the European Union holding back our fishermen from expanding their operations. As a former trade minister, I know that many of the much heralded new trade deals ministers are wanting to negotiate will involve significant immigration to the UK, a truth ministers have been reluctant to explain. And big trading nations like the United States, when they sit down to negotiate with us on our own, it is already clear that they expect us to lower the environmental, health and safety standards we have here in the UK. Chlorinated chicken would be just the start. And of course, there are the well-known ambitions that private American health chains have to be allowed to expand into our NHS here.
Shocking.
The Prime Minister has said emphatically that the country will have full details about the deal negotiated before we leave the European Union, and I take her at her word. We already know the details of the divorce deal and the transition. We know some key parts of the deal the government is negotiating, notably that they want to leave the customs union and the single market. The government only decided this after the referendum was held. It was not on the ballot paper. If the government, despite what the Prime Minister has promised, tries to fob the country off with only vague plans about leading, if much of our future relationship remains unclear, it will be even more important to have a people's vote because of the danger that we will be charging off into the unknown. This is the greatest country in the world, and I want it to be greater still. The Brexit deal is bigger than any piece of legislation, more significant than any budget, and will have more impact than any government minister at the moment on the future of our country. On something as big as the Brexit deal. Why should it only be us, here in this House, who get to decide what is good enough? Why can't my neighbours, the people in my community who shop in the supermarkets I use, who walk the same streets as I do, have a vote on the deal too? Why am I set to be the only person living in Harrow who will get a say on whether the Brexit deal is any good? Why won't people in Belfast, in Shropshire, in Lincoln, in Stirling or in Aberystwyth get a vote on the deal that will have such a big impact on their lives and that of their children? Whatever we think of Brexit, whether we voted Remain or Leave, whether we think we'll get a good deal or a bad deal, we can all surely agree that it is a huge deal. And that means it's much too important to be left to the 650 of us here in Westminster to decide on our own. The 65 million people of this great country deserve to have their voices heard on the Brexit deal as well. So that's why I support the people's vote on the terms of Brexit. And that's what I'll be campaigning on over the coming months. And it's why, too, I urge the House to support this bill too.
The question is that the honourable member have leave to bring in the bill. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Timms, Dr Rupert Huck, Andy Slaughter, Stephen Doughty, Anna Turley, Susan Ellen Jones, Tom Brake, Jonathan Edwards, Caroline Lucas, Daniel Zeichner, Paul Flynn and myself.
Gareth Thomas.
European Union Withdrawal Agreement Public Vote Bill.
Second reading what day?
Friday the 6th of July.
Friday the 6th of July.